Аспірантура каже, зараз вимкну трансляцію на YouTube і запис. І тоді, коли все це почнеться, ми повинні підтвердити. І опонентам треба сказати, що понятно. Бо той раз помните, нікому не підтвердили ви. Ага. Я слухаю. Угу.
Це нас чутно, ми готові. Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Чи чутно нас, чи видно нас? Ті, які до нас приєднуються.
Так, вас чутно, не видно.
Ага, Борис Федорович.
Так, чутно.
Ага.
Yeah.
UNG, can you hear us? Can you see us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Good morning. Добрий день, шановні колеги. Вітаю вас з роботою в нашій спеціалізованій раді. Сьогодні 21 березня 2023 року. Ну і зрозуміло, що починаємо згідно рішення вченої ради Сумського національного аграрного університету, протокол номер 1 від 4.1.23 року, роботу створеній спеціалізованій раді щодо проведення разового захисту УЛЮ на тему створення вихідного матеріалу пшениці озимої, стійкого до накопичення кадмію. Ну, мабуть, тут неправильно, соняшнику до накопичення кадмію. На здобуття доктора філософії в галузі науки та продовольства за спеціальністю 201 агрономія. Згідно з даним реєстраційної картки, яка в нас тут роздрукована, присутні в залі голова спеціалізованої ради, професор Мельник Андрій Васильович, тобто це я присутній, професор кафедри садово-паркового господарства, рецензенти Бутенко Андрій Олександрович, кандидат сільськогосподарських наук, доцент кафедри агротехнологій та ґрунтознавства, Сумський національний аграрний університет, присутній. Так, Оничко Віктор Іванович, кандидат сільськогосподарських наук, доцент, завідувач кафедри селекції та насінництва імені Миколи Дем'яновича Гончарова, Сумський національний аграрний університет, присутній. Так, будь ласка, опоненти: Макляк Катерина Миколаївна, доктор сільськогосподарських культур, завідувач лабораторії селекції та генетики соняшник Інституту рослинництва імені Юр'єва, Національна академія аграрних наук. Присутня? Так,
Присутня.
Все, окей, ще раз перевіряємо. Вареник Борис Федорович, кандидат сільськогосподарських наук, старший науковий співробітник, доцент, завідувач відділу селекції перехрестно-запильних культур і насінництва, селекційно-генетичний інститут НАН України. Присутній. Так. Окей.
Так.
Ми реєструємося. Ті, хто в нас тут присутні, реєстраційна карточка, підписуємося про свою наявність, потім реєструємося, реєстраційна карточка тут, зареєструємося, підпишемо і додамо до справи. Хто з нами на засобах відеозв'язку, ми зафіксували вас, там, відповідно, буде помітка. Тобто у нас із 5 членів спеціалізованої вченої ради, першою вченою радою Сумського НАУ, присутні всі, тобто є форум. Засідання спеціалізованої вченої ради оголошую відкритим. Всі згодні? Так, добре. На порядку денному захист дисертації аспірантки денної форми навчання, кафедра агротехнологій та природокористування, ФУ-ЮНЖ, здобуття ступеня доктора філософії в галузі знань 20, аграрні науки та продовольства за спеціальністю 201. Вона є присутня, була підтверджена її присутність. Дисертація на тему «Селекція соняшнику на стійкість до накопичення кадмію. Selection on sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation». Виконана в Сумському національному аграрному університеті, науковий керівник, доктор сільськогосподарських наук, професор, завідувач кафедри агротехнологій та ґрунтознавства Сумського національного аграрного університету Троценко Володимир Іванович. Присутній? Добре. Згідно процедури, ми маємо перерахувати всі документи, які надійшли до особової картки здобувача. справу і передані до Міністерства освіти. Отже, наявна заява щодо проведення атестації здобувача, копія першої сторінки паспорта громадянинки Китайської Народної Республіки, копію диплома про закінчення магістратури, копія наказу витягу з зарахування до аспірантури, засвідчена в установленому порядку. Є тут підпис, печатка. Академічна довідка про виконання відповідної освітньої програми номер 38-2022. Вона є засвідчена нашим ректором. Далі, висновок наукового керівника, доктора сільськогосподарських наук, професора Ценка, є висновок про наукову цінність, теоретичне та практичне значення дисертації. Так, дисертація в друкованому та електронному виглядах, є збитки копій наукових публікацій згідно за темою проведення досліджень. Є вони підшиті. Отже, всі документи відповідають встановленим вимогам, дисертація до захисту подається вперше. Чи будуть зауваження, пропозиції щодо порядку денного? Чи в кого є якісь зауваження, доповнення? Немає. Дякую. Так. Тоді голосуємо за затвердження порядку денного. Хто за? Так, все зафіксовано. Відео дякую. Утримались? Немає. Проти? Немає. Так як усі до цього були. Приймається одноголосно. Шановні колеги, дозвольте зазначити біографічні дані аспірантки, що записано було в атестаційній справі аспірантки. Фу Юанджі, 1978 року народження, громадянинка Китайської Народної Республіки, освіта вища, у 2009 році закінчила магістратуру в Хуаджанському сільськогосподарському університеті Китайська Народна Республіка за спеціальністю генетика та селекція. Наразі працює в Хенанському інституті науки і технологій Китайська Народна Республіка. Навчання в аспірантурі Сумського національного аграрного університету з 16.10.2018 року по 16.10.2022 року. Тема та індивідуальний план наукової роботи здобувача Хуянджі були затверджені рішенням Ради Сумського національного аграрного університету, протокол номер 7 від 26 грудня 2017 року. 14 липня 2022 року була проведена публічна презентація апробації дисертації на кафедрі агротехнології та природокористування, де було рекомендовано до розгляду та захисту в разовій спеціалізованій вченій. Здобувач Хуянджі виконала освітню наукову програму 16 жовтня 2022 року за спеціальністю 201 агрономія та отримала академічну довідку 39-2022. Науковий керівник, як ми вже зазначили, доктор професор Проценко Володимир Іванович. Основні результати досліджень відображено в наукових працях 11, 4 з них в статтях, 3 фахових видання України, 1 віднесена до бази Scopus та Web of Science. В 7 тезах доповідей на міжнародних наукових конференціях. Матеріали статей та тест відображають освітні положення, висновки дисертаційної роботи. Наукові публікації відповідають пунктам 8.9 порядку працювання ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішень разом спеціалізованої вченої ради наукової установи про присудження ступеня згідно постанови міністра від 12 січня 2022 року. Дисертація відповідає наказу номер 40 від 12.01.2017 року. Порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування вченої ради від 12 січня 2022 року. Отже, чи є запитання до згаданих мною документів, що подав здобувач? Може, хтось хоче пересвідчитись в присутності чи наявності документів. Є які запитання? Шановні колеги, нема запитань? По документу? Немає. Так. Отже, слово надається здобувачеві для викладу основних положень дисертації за погодженням Здобувачем захист буде відбувати англійською мовою, що дозволено сучасним положенням про захист даних наукових робіт. So, Q&G, you can start. Would you start the presentation, the main result of your research? And please use the 18-20 minutes. You can start now.
Okay. Good morning, professors and teachers. Thank you for attending my PhD defense. My name is Zhu Yuanzhi. My scientific advisor is Vladimir Tolchenko. Allow me to present my dissertation presentation on the topic selection of sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation. The actuality of the theme includes the following aspects. Currently, sunflower is growing on an area of about 30 million hectares, providing up to 10% of the world oil market. It is necessary to find breeding methods to control cadmium accumulation in sunflower. The implementation of the direction is limited by the lack of effective and theoretically reliable methods to create specialized genotypes with controllable cadmium accumulation levels. Let's look at the purpose and objectives of research. The purpose was to increase the efficiency of sunflower by creating and studying the characteristics of the source material with a controlled level of cadmium accumulation. Objectives of research in particular were to develop and test the methodology for assessing the resistance of sunflower breeding material to cadmium accumulation, to do a physiological comparison of collection samples with high and low levels of cadmium accumulation, to evaluate the created material according to a complex of economical and valuable features. Connection of study with the scientific programs, plans, themes is presented here. The scientific novelty is solving an important scientific problem of creating and evaluating the source material of sunflower with a low level of cadmium accumulation. A working collection was formed with a rate of cadmium content in the above ground, a part of plants, and in the seeds. The predominant type of inheritance of the trait of resistance to cadmium accumulation is depression and partition negative dominance. Many differential expressed ABC and ZIP genes might play important roles. The original source material of sunflower was created with a controlled level of cadmium accumulation and the estimated productivity of oil genotypes. The study of sunflower collection includes 104 samples. The research was based on 3 experiments. Experiment 1, study of the collection. Vegetation experiment. Analysis background was under cadmium concentration of 1 mg/kg in soils. Field experiment. The natural background of cadmium in soil was 0.21 mg/kg. Experiment 2, hybridization and evaluation of created hybrids. Low cadmium samples and high cadmium samples were used for crossing, respectively. Experiment 3, preparation of 2 sunflower varieties with low cadmium accumulation. Identification of the growth index and the concentrations of cadmium and other elements. Study of the antioxidant systems. the transcriptome sequencing of samples. Experimental conditions included long-term average monthly temperatures and precipitation in area. The weather conditions of the growing season contributed to the identification of genotypes adapted to the temperature and water regimes of the study area. The analysis of weather conditions and indicators of average yield indicators that at this stage, the main limiting factor of yield is the low level of height supply in the spring and the lake moisture in the second half of the growing season. Let me present research results. The distribution of the sunflower collection according to the indicator of cadmium accumulation is the above ground photomass. The group of plants with low cadmium accumulation is the above ground photomass included 11 samples with a value of indicator from 0.5 to 0.9 mg/kg. The group included 7 selected samples with a high cadmium content of more than 2.11 mg/kg. According to the results of a field experiment, indicators of character content in seed were determined. The minimum level of cadmium accumulation in seeds was noted in 16 samples, including 64-3 GP231AC, Simic, Polaris CL, resin, and others. Characteristics of vegetation of field experiments for resistant to cadmium accumulation were compared. The highest rates of comparison were in the group with unsatisfactory and low levels of resistance. In the group with a high level of resistance, the share of hybrids was 76.1%. Evaluation of the working collection was carried out according to 12 indicators. The main selection controlled indicators were flowering stage period, RAI indicator, plant productivity values. The method of cluster analysis were applied to the group selection samples according to a complex of morphological selection value traits. Samples of cluster A are characterized as later ripening ones and low yielding. Common characteristic of cluster C samples were the average level of stem height close to the level of plant productivity. Cluster B was quite heterogeneous in composition. It included short and semi-drop selection samples with different levels of productivity. The structure of a high cadmium group of samples was based on the difference in the total photomass of the plants and other seed productivity. In the group A, a cluster of samples with a short stem and high values of the RAI indicator were selected. The availability of a significant stock of photosynthesis products in samples of cluster B suggests a more passive type of cadmium uptake by seeds. As a result of intervarietal crossing 73 hybrid combinations were obtained. Only a fifth inherited the trait of resistance to cadmium accumulation as a type of heterosis. However, in most cases, 57.1% of the trait inheritance occurred according to the type of depression. The second generation of the intervarietal hybrids were obtained in the process of controlled pollination. The minimum values were noted in hybrids 1906, 1932, and 1967. The maximum value of the indicator was hybrid 1911. In the first and second hybrid generations, indicators of the correlation structure of the selectively controlled traits were optimized. The indicator of cadmium content in seed had a statistically significant negative correlation with the indicator of plant productivity and a positive correlation with the LAR coefficient. The cadmium concentration in the roots was much higher in the shoots in both varieties, and the cadmium concentration in the roots and shoots of 62:3 higher than that in GB231AC. GB231AC can be used as a good germplasm material for hybridization in order to improve the cadmium tolerance of sunflower. The seedling height and fresh weight of 62:3 and GB231AC decreased with an increase in cadmium concentration. The dry weight of shoots and roots of 62:3 and GB231AC decreased with an increase in cadmium stress. But the genotype GB231AC had a larger bare mass than 62:3 at the same concentration of cadmium stress. The contents of H2O2 and MDA in 62:3 were lower than that in GB231AC and the cadmium stress, which showed that GB231AC produced more toxic oxidation substances. The activities of SOD and POD in GB231AC were higher than that in 62:3, indicating that GB231AC had a very strong ability to remove ROS-induced toxic substances. GO class analysis was used to identify the function annotation of 4,764 DEGs identified between 62:3 and GB231AC. The result showed that 55 GO terms were grouped into 3 categories. A total of 130 kgg pathways were enriched and 20 kgg pathways significantly were enriched. A total of 79 DEGs related to cadmium detoxification, transport, or accumulation were identified. 36 DEGs ABC, 24 up-regulated, and 12 down-unregulated were identified. 26 DEGs DLT, 15 up-regulated, and 11 down-regulated were identified. 2 up-regulated HMA genes and 1 up-regulated NRAMP genes were screened out. The oil-based direction of crop utilization remains dominant. The indicators of oil yield per unit area are in the reflection of the dynamics of plant productivity values and the oil content in seeds. The value close to the level of the conditional standard was obtained for the sample of 1941. According to the results of the field tests, 3 samples with indicators of high cadmium accumulation were selected. The content of cadmium in the plants exceeded the natural background by 5 or more times, which provided the possibility of removing up to 20 grams of biologically active cadmium from soil, which alone considering selected samples as the source material for selection programs of soil remediation. Since the main provisions were laid out during the presentation, I don't write them, but go to recommendations for selection practice. In deriving of linear sunflower materials, as preliminary testing for resistance to cadmium accumulation should to carry out using an analytical background with a cadmium concentration of 1 mg/kg. In creating a sunflower source material with a minimum level of cadmium accumulation, select samples of GB231AC and 5 intervarietal hybrids can be used. Samples of 62-3 and intervarietal hybrids should be used in selection programs of the photopyramidal direction. The presentation is over. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Yonji.
Thank you.
Okay, you're exactly in time. Very nice. 17 minutes. The report is finished. Let's go to discussion and to have some review. Now we have one view, Andrei Butenko. Questions. Sorry, questions. Yes, first questions. Okay, who have questions? Dear colleagues, now we must ask UNG some questions. Yes, please.
UNG, please tell me whether it is possible to determine the potential level of accumulation in the sunflower seeds by external science.
Thank you for your question. So far, no external science has been used to identify the potential levels of cadmium accumulation in sunflower seeds. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have more questions? Yes, please. Second one.
UNG, according to the scheme of the experiment, you plan to get more than 100 hybrids, but you characterize only 70. There did there are.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, according to the scheme presented on slide 6, I'll show you. It was planned to obtain 90 hybrids in each of the groups and the same number in intergroup crossing, but there were potential indicators. In fact, due to the difference in flowering times, as well as the low level of compatibility between individual samples, we managed to obtain only about 100 hybrids. Only 70 produce enough seeds. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. No, please.
Yeah.
I have a few.
Nichka, do you have questions? Yes, please.
Please, in your opinion, is it possible to effectively carry out selection for resistance to cadmium accumulation in the conditions of a vegetation experiment, i.e. in a greenhouses?
Thank you for your question. According to the results of our experiment, there is a correlation between vegetation experiment and field experiment. At the same time, negative selection is statistically effective. That is the rejection of samples with a high level of cadmium accumulation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Question.
Second, yes, please.
Twenty. How it is the demand on the market, especially in China, for sunflower hybrids with a minimum level of cadmium accumulation?
Oh, thank you for your question. In China, sunflower production is mainly distributed in northeast China, where cadmium pollution is rarely reported. However, in China, as in the whole world, there is a growing demand for ecological food products, the production of which is based on the use of specialized varieties. Therefore, they will be in demand in the near future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody more want to ask the questions?
I have two questions.
Yes, please.
The first question, dear Yuanji, why were samples JB231AC and 6203 chosen for physiological and genetic studies, since there were other samples in the groups with the minimum and maximum contents?
Thank you. Oh, thank you for your question. In cases, both GB231AC and 62/3 are less. When selecting samples with minimum cadmium content, we focused on single head forms with higher than average seed productivity, potential, and sufficient level of plant leveling. When selecting samples from the high cadmium groups, the main parameter was their leveling. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have more questions?
And the second question.
Yes, please.
In the table of slide 25, the term conditional standard appears. Explain the method of its determinations. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In field experiments on evaluating the values of intervariator hybrids, the result was compared to a conditional standard. Conditional standard average values of indicator of hybrids, resin, Polaris CL, Sumico. It was these hybrids that had the optimal length of vegetation for the research area, 110 to 150 days, and were common in commercial crops. Besides, we have enough of their seeds. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Boris Felix, do you have questions?
Yes, first questions. Did you personally participate in hybridization? If possible, briefly tell about the essence in this process.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I participated in hybridization. Crossing was carried out according to the scheme on slide 6. Just this slide. At the beginning of flowering, we cut off the flowers along the edge of the head that began to bloom and put an insulator made of sperm buds on the head. Pollination was carried out in the morning hours in 2 days. Pollen was transferred together with part of the inflorescences. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second questions.
Okay, please.
What are the prospects for the practical use of the result of physiological and genetic research?
Thank you for your question. Through physiological research, we can find out more suitable methods for the production management of the varieties. And through genetic research, we can artificially select the good genotypes that meet the needs of the production. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'm sorry. Maybe answer for your questions you can see in this picture. You see now in this picture UNG with Professor Trotsenko make hybridization. So, okay, I also have one or two questions. We know about sunflower. Sunflower have different uses. For example, oil direction, conventional direction, and ornamental direction. My question is, there is critical situation with the cadmium, accumulation of cadmium in conventional sunflower. What is type to do the simple creative by the below two? It's the first one. Please.
Thank you for your question. Today, both in Ukraine and in the world, the main indicator of sunflower of the confectionery group is the seed size. It should be more than 80 to 100 grams. In the hybrids selected by us, the indicator is within 54 to 64 grams. That is, the created source material corresponds to a greater extent parameters of the oil direction. Yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have second questions. The level of consumption of varieties types of oil largely determination by historical tradition. How population in is sunflower oil consumed in China? So how popular sunflower oil in China?
Thank you for your question. Climate conditions in most parts of China are not suitable for growing sunflowers. So sunflower oil is less in China. But in main sunflower producing area of northeast China, sunflower oil should be popular. Yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anybody want to ask more questions? No? Okay. So let me finalize everyone. No questions. So I will, in our procedure, I will read the review of university about activities, about practice using your UNG investigation, theoretical and practical submission of the result of the test. We have documents with signature, our vice rector, Yuri Ivanovich. I read the main position from this document. Так, висновок наукову та практичну цінність дисертації ФУ-НГ Аспірантського національного аграрного університету, кафедри агротехнологій та агрономства на тему селекція соняшнику на стійкість до накопичення кадмію на здобуття наукового ступеня доктора філософії за спеціальністю 201 агрономія. Галузь знань 20 аграрні науки. Витяг номер 3 з розширеного засідання кафедри від 14 липня 2022 року. Присутні вказані всі професори: Коваленко, Троценко, Міщенко, доценти Онич, а ще професор Скляр, Жатова, Мельник, доценти Захарченко, Ільченко, Бутенко, Радченко, Токман і аспіранти також були присутні. Прошу вибачення, що без ініціалів швидше нам закінчити. До речі, в дискусії, як буде у нас сьогодні дискусія, я прошу, шановні колеги, теж бути лаконічними, тому що можливі бої з електропостачанням, з інтернетом, щоб ми в цей час вклалися. Тому, будь ласка, лаконічно. Тому сам буду скорочувати відповідно цей вид. Так, слухайте, безпосередньо дану дисертацію була презентація до аспірантки ФУ-НГ. Вступили рецензенти Темко Андрій Олександрович, до речі, вони присутні, Оничко Віктор Іванович, які підтвердили, що робота відповідає вимогам. За актуальністю робота відповідає вимогам, результати обґрунтовані, зв'язок роботи з науковими програмами є відповідні, перераховані програми, номер реєстрації 0119 У 10-81 19-23 року та інша програма Інституту сільського господарства Північного Сходу НААН України, де безпосередньо проводились дослідження. Особисто, до речі, був на цих, коли перевіряли якраз досліджень, і фотокартки там зроблені якраз за темою зроблення моделі генотипу створення вихідного матеріалу стійкого до накопичення кадмію. Номер реєстрації 01-21-108-674. Мета, як зазначала нам сьогодні Бувачка, була чітко вказана. Наукова роботи полягає в вирішенні важливого наукового завдання і створення та оцінювання вихідного матеріалу соняшнику з низьким рівнем накопичення кадмію. Вперше розроблено та апробовано методику непрямого оцінювання станційних зразків на стійкість накопичення кадмію. Параметри методики, вегетаційний дослід, аналізуючи фон з конкретною концентрацією кадмію. Сформульовано робочу колекцію діапазоном вмістом кадмію на частині. Фон 1 мг, 0,5-26 мг в кілограмі, вода. Все це передано в ці зразки. Встановлено, що переважної кількості стійкий знак до накопичення кадмію відслідковується депресія та часткове негативне домінування. Сумарне значення з тих типів складало при скрещуванні низьких генотипів 62%, при скрещуванні висококадмійних генотипів та міжгруповому скрещенні 85,7% та 66,7% відповідно. За результатами гібридизації розширено діапазон мінливості ознаки вмісту кадмію в плодах до 0,05-24 мг в кілограмі. Оптимізовано кореляційну структуру селекційно корельованих зразків. Це значення, що дуже важливо на роботах агрономічних. З результатами виконання роботи Інституту сільського господарства НААН України передано колекцію соняшнику із таким рівнем накопичення кадмію. Матеріали статей та річних звітів включено до навчальних програм з дисципліни ОС бакалавр, спеціальності 01 агрономія в НАУ. Ступінь достовірності результатів. Наукові положення, висновки, рекомендації для виробництва, які сформульовані дисертації, базуються на трирічних експериментах, лабораторних дослідженнях, виконаних згідно загально прийнятих методик. Їх довірність доведена статистичними методами обробки даних, результатами перевірок в виробничих умовах. Апробація результатів досліджень, як вже було зазначено, проведено 7 міжнародних науково-практичних конференцій. Повнота публікування результатів. А в дисертації особисто проведено експеримент в нових та лабораторних умовах, здійснено обчислення оптимально отриманих результатів та проведення достовірності. Автором особисто проведено аналіз отриманих даних, сформульовано висновки та пропозиції, підготовлено матеріали дослідження, публікування. Особиста участь в апробації результатів була проведена. Так, це все є. Саме головне, до речі, рецензентами перевірено звіт на академічний плагіат, проведений за допомогою ліцензійної програми Street Plagium. Позичення, виявлені в роботі, є законними і не є плагіатом. Рівень подібності відповідає діючим вимогам. Особистий внесок здобувача підтверджується нормативними документами та науковими публікаціями. Як я вже зазначив, є 11 наукових праць, в тому числі 3 публікації в фахових виданнях України, 1 публікація в науковому виданні, включені до бази Scopus. 7, що відповідає відповідно постанові Кабінету міністрів номер 4 від 12 січня 2022 року. Статті ці всі наведені, все це підтверджено і вони роздруковані є. Конкретний особистий внесок Танкас. Автором разом з науковим керівником розроблено схеми досліджень, безпосередньо проведено польові та лабораторні дослідження, виконано аналітичний огляд вітчизняної та зарубіжної літератури, проведено аналіз експериментального матеріалу, сформульовані висновки, надано рекомендації виробництву. Особистий внесок здобувача в наукових працях складає 60-80%. Відповідність дисертації спеціальності. Мова дисертації англійська, технічна форма відповідає загальноприйнятним вимогам, а за її зміст спеціальності 201 агрономія. Зараз ми знову коротенько характеристику здобувача та її ступінь наукової зрілості, що вимагає наша, сказати, документація. Фу Юанджі, 1972 народження, громадянка Китайської Народної Республіки, закінчила магістратуру спеціальності генетика та селекція. У 2018 році вступила до аспірантури, пройшла курс, повністю виконала навчальний план, про що є довідка, як ми вже зазначали. Під час виконання дисертації провела роботу наукову дослідження щодо вивчення сучасного проблематика, яке було заявлено в дисертації. Було обрано об'єкти, матеріали та методи проведення досліджень, сформульовано актуальність теми та її задачі. Здобувач Фу Юанджі безпосередньо брала участь в проведенні досліджень польових та лабораторних і інтерпретації їх результатів. Фу Юанджі під час навчання і презентації виявила старанність, наполегливість, відповідальність. Отже, на підставі вище викладеного можна зробити висновок, що виконані дослідження і опубліковані роботи характеризують Фу Юанджі як сформульованого фахівця з агрономії і дослідника. Володіє методологією наукового дослідження, має необхідні наукові знання, широкий кругозір та вільно володіє англійською та китайською мовами. І як підсумок постановили, враховуючи актуальність, обґрунтованість, важливість проведення тих досліджень, достатній рівень апробації матеріалів та викладання в наукових працях, відповідність вимогам пункту номер 44 від 12 січня 2022 року зі змінами вважати, що Фу Юанджі провела дослідження за спеціальністю агрономія на кафедрі агрономії і ця робота відповідає даним нормативам. Тобто рішення було прийнято одноголосно. Головуючий якраз безпосередньо я був, це 14 числа, пам'ятаю, в цій же самій аудиторії. І секретарем був кандидат наук Микола Володимирович Радченко. Є підписи, завірено, тобто цей документ, згідно вимог, у нас також додається. Так, шановні колеги, Прошу вибачення, бо трошки пана себе почаю. Що були питання з зубами, тому якраз це тільки це відновлююся. Ну, можливо, дикція не зовсім така, як має бути. Так, шановні колеги, ми зараз переходимо безпосередньо до обговорення. Так, у нас були запитання. Зачитування зараз відгуків. Так, все правильно. Дякую. So, according to the process, we start to discussion. So, I invite review to speak. First of them is Andrei Gutenko.
Review of the official review for PhD thesis of Yuanji Fu, selection of sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation, submitted for doctor philosophy degree, PhD. Field of study, 20 agriculture science and food specialty, 201 agronomy. One, relevance to the research topic. Sunflower belongs to plants that accumulated the highly dangerous heavy metal of cadmium, the half-life of which from the human body is 25-30 years. The words, the problem of cadmium is determined by the study increase in the concentrations of this element in soils of agricultural use. The main factor in the growth of the metal concentrations in arable soils is the application of phosphorus mineral fertilizers. The content of cadmium in them ranges from 70 to 170 milligram on kilogram, and additional factor in the growth of cadmium concentration in the sunflower crop is the expansion of the cultivation zone in areas with an increased share of mobile water soluble components. The consecutions of this in numerous facts result to import sunflower processing products from Ukraine. Two, connection of this thesis with scientific programs and topics. Studies of Yuanji Fu were carried out in accordance with the thematic plans of scientific research works of Sumination Agrarian University for 2019 to 2023, creating the source material of cereals and oilseeds resistant to the accumulation of heavy metals, and the scientific topic of the Institute of Agriculture of the Northeast of Ukraine. Development of regenerative model and creation of source material of sunflower resistant to cadmium accumulation. Yuanji Fu is a explorer and excluder of the individual's tasks of the specified topics. Three, the structure and content of the dissertation. The dissertation manuscript contains 195 pages of computer text, of which 137 other main text. The work contains 19 tables and 28 figures. The total volume of book is about out sheets. The manuscript is structured according to the traditional scheme for natural science research. The structure fully corresponds to the goals and objectives of the research. Then common chapters and subchapters after following the rules of proportionality in presence, general and specific issues. The introduction reveals the main normative indication of dissertation. The title of the work corresponds to the purpose. Headings and content of chapters corresponds to the list of texts and general direction of research. The first chapter reveals the state of study of the issue of breeding control of the resistance of cultivation cultivated plant species to the accumulation of certain toxic elements. The material of the chapter is the basis of the use of more than 200 scientific sources, most of which were published for the last 10 years. The present of number the theoretical and practical problems was established for the solution of which the after development scheme of experiment research. The second chapter contains data on the soil and the condition of the research area and description of the research methods. The third chapter presents the result evaluations of breeding samples according to the indication of immune content and a set of indication of your vegetative and generative development. The tabular and illustrative material of present the progress and result of vegetation 2019 and field 2019 to 2021 experiments on the implementation of breeding program develop sunflower source material which control and cadmium accumulation. The existence of selected samples, intervarial hybrids, the level of relationships indications carried out using the technique of correlation is regression and clusters analysis. The project details is the study of physiological and genetic control mechanism on the resistance to cadmium accumulation on the basis of 2 breeding samples of sunflower. The first chapter presents the result of competitive testing of promising breeding samples. The samples were evaluated for content and for and oil content. The conclusions are presented in a logical sequence and accordance with the task and structure of the work. Proposals for selection practical take into account the current state of sunflower and are quite realistic for implementation. 4. Validated and reliability of provision of the dissertation. The well-edited of the conclusions and the provisions of the presentation is inserted by the logical structure of experimental studies performed and accordance with the accept method. The correspondence of the methods of vegetation and field experiments is confirmed by acts of experimental acceptance 2019 to 2022. Laboratory studies were performed in the conditions of certified laboratory. The selected research methods are modern, highly informative, and sufficient for accurate achievement of the set tasks. The regular and logical justification of the conclusion drawn is based on statistically confirmed dependence. 5. Scientific validity on the obtained result. According to the results of the author's work for the first time, a method of direct assessment of selected sunflower samples for resistance to cadmium accumulation was developed and tested. It is sorry. It was determined the predominant type of inheritance of the trait of resistance to cadmium accumulation is depression and fertile negative dominance. The total value of these types was when crossing genotype with lower cadmium content 62%. When crossing genotype with high cadmium content and between group crossing 18.5.7 and 66.7 respectively. Based on the result of analysis of JB 231A is 62 on 3 samples, it was found that the level of resistance to cadmium accumulation determined by the difference in the activity of MDA, SOLT, and POD, as well as the ability of genotypes to remove toxic substance, reactive oxygen species from cells. It has been improved the scheme for evolution collection sample of straw pollinated plant species, basis of yield quality indication. Scientific state concerning growth, the level of editability of plant to elemental conditions while narrowing the genetic base of the population have gained development. 6. The practical scientific of research and its implementation in breeding practice. Sunflower material with a controlled level of cadmium accumulation with an estimated productivity of 0.94 to 1.48 ton of oil on a hectare was created. Working collection of intervariant hybrids was transferred into the Institute of Agriculture of the Northeast of the Academy of Science for future breeding stock. Development and improved methodical approach for sunflower breeding were used in scientific and pedagogical work at the Seminary Agrarian University. 7. Absence of evaluation of academic integrity. There are no signs of academic plagiarism, falsification of the violences that would call into question the independent nature to the output performance of the scientific research presence in the peer-reviewed dissertation work that is original reference to primary sources and made correctly. The provisions of the dissertation submitted for defense are set out in 11 scientific work, 4 articles in special scientific publication recommended by of Ministry of Education and Science Ukraine, 1 article in a publication indexed by the symptomatic details of Scopus to Quartin and conference. Published scientific books reflects the content in the dissertation. Consider inappropriate to note that the chronology of publication in 2019 to 2022 corresponds to the stage of work on the dissertation remark on the dissertation. Most significant shortcomings the found in the dissertation. The work is decided in accordance with the current requirements. There are certain comments that need to be paid attention to during the defense. In the structure list and the content of the subjectives of the first chapter, review of literature, the overview of the physiological and genetic content of plants' resistance to accumulation of toxic elements is dominant. The breeding component is less represented. The next, in the text page, it is noted that the study of the collection is carried out in accordance with the previous developed selection program. However, the algorithm of the program itself is absent in the next. The dissertation lacks information about the origin and pedigrees of individual selection samples, primarily JB 231AC and 72 which appear in chapter 3 and are the objects of research in chapter 4. The UTC number of the manuscript is to generalizate and it does not specify the declaration topic. Next, in part of table 2.1 and 3.3 and GJ evidence, the transfer was performed correctly. 9. General conclusion. Dissertation of work of UNG full section of sunflower for resistance to carbon accumulation, submitted for defense to the specialized academic council for obtaining the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of knowledge 20 agricultural science and food in the specialty 201 agronomy. In terms of its prevalence, scientific and theoretical level, main results of validity, main provision and results published in professional publication, and novelty of the setting and practical signification meets the requirements of the Ministry of Education of Science of Ukraine, number 40, dated January 12, 2017, on approval of requirements for registration dissertation, and the degree of the Cabinet Ministers of Ukraine dated January 12, 22, number 44, on approval of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and cancellation of the decision of the one-time facilitate academic council of the higher education institution, scientific institution of the awarding degree of Doctor of Philosophy with amendments made in according to the resolution of the Minister data 2022 year. On the basis of the above, I believe what UNG FU deserves to be awards the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 201 officially review PhD Agricultural Science, Associate Professor, Department of Agriculture, Technology and Soil Science, National University, Andriy Butenko.
Thank you very much, Andriy Butenko. You spent more time in UNG. Please next review use less time. Please, just main position, because everybody saw your review in the website. The full version we can see and check in website. So, okay, UNG, you have time or you have possibility to give answer for these some questions from Andriy Butenko.
Okay. Yes. I'm grateful to my review for the thorough analysis of my dissertation and the comments and suggestions which were made. I agree with most of the remarks and will take them in account in my future work. However, I would like to give an explanation for some of them. In particular, remark 1, in the structure, list, and content of the subsection of first chapter, the overview of the physiological and genetic comments of plant resistant to the accumulation of toxic elements is dominant. The breeding component is less represented. Thank you for your comment. Physiological and molecular mechanism research is basic research of crop breeding, and the analysis of crop genetic mechanism is conducive to speeding up the process of crop breeding. At present, The main measure of breeding is the traditional breeding methods based on cross-breeding. With the development of science and technology, the biotechnology breeding method will gradually participate in the breeding practice. While writing this chapter, I have presented almost all of the literature on cadmium breeding that I could find in my online here. I think the research on cadmium breeding needs to be further enriched and developed. Remark 2. In part of tables 2.1, 3.3, and G to G of appendix, the transfer was performed incorrectly. Thank you for your comment. I have noticed this problem. When I was formatting, I tried to correct it several times, but I failed. Speculating that it might be a problem of the supplement software. Thank you a lot. That's all.
Is all?
Yes,
Are you-
that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrei Butenko, are you satisfied with the answer for this question, for your question? Okay, thank you very much. Next review, Dr. Ivana Chanichka, please. Read the review. Please remember, not the same time like
Yes,
Andrei
yes,
Butenko. Shorter.
Okay. On basis of a detailed study of the dissertation work of UNG on the topic selection of sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation and your scientific works published on the topic of study. I studied the following. Let's get to the comments. With an overall positive evaluation of the dissertation, it is necessary to the presence in the text of the work of certain debatable clauses, as well as clauses that require educational argumentation. First, insufficient coverage of the connection between chapters 3, 5, and 4. Next, the characteristics of weather conditions, the dynamics of which largely determine the development of diseases. Do not involve the use of indicators that provide the possibility of focusing a certain range of weather conditional level of their repetition, typicality, coefficient, X. Next, that on the developed method of indirect assessment of sunflower resistance to cadmium accumulation is not conferred by the relevant registration document certificate for a modulator model. Next, in the tables and text of chapter 3, the L and R and mass 1000 indicators of seeds are used, but there's abbreviations are not included in the list, and the methodology does not include a scheme for calculations the indicators. Now, in the work, various methods of confirming the statistical ability of LCD and P level are used, but this position is not noted in the methodology chapter. Next, in chapter 5, a conditional standard is used for comparison control, but there is no scheme for calculation these indicators. On the basis of the above, I support that UNFU decided to be awarded a scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 201 agronomy of the field of knowledge, agrarian science of and food. Special review, head of the Department of Breeding and Seed Production of Professor of Sumy National Agrarian University, PhD, Associate Professor Victor Onichko.
Thank you very much, Victor Ivan. Exactly in time. QNG, please. You have possibility to give answer for questions. Victor Ivan.
Okay. I'm grateful to my review for the deep analysis of my dissertation and the comments which were made. I agree with most of them and will take into account in my future work. So I would like to give an explanation for some of remarks. Remarks 1. Insufficient coverage of the connection between chapter 3, 5, and 4. Thank you for your comments. Chapter 3, 4, 5, and 4 may not be connected enough. However, the contents of these 3 chapters are closely related to the title, Sunflower Selection for Resistance to Cadmium Accumulation. In chapter 3 and 5, the characteristics, breeding methods, and breeding results of high and low cadmium variety were obtained respectively from the perspective of breeding. In chapter 4, the genetic mechanism affecting high and low cadmium accumulation was studied from the perspective of physiological and molecular, which laid the foundation for breeding research. This paper not only expounds the theoretical basis of cadmium accumulation, but also studies the breeding application of cadmium tolerance from zero to application. Both are contained around the theme of cadmium tolerance breeding in sunflowers. Remark 2. Data on the developed method of indirect assessment of sunflower resistance to cadmium accumulation is not confirmed by the relevant registration document. Thank you for your comment. Next step, we are considering applying for information by the relevant registration document. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, QNG. Are you satisfied?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor Ivanovich. Next, we can start. Oh, I want to invite official opponent to speak. Please, Katerina Maklyak. Are you ready? Read your review, please.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. Dear colleagues, to your attention, review of the official opponent for PhD thesis of Yuan Xinfu, selection on sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation. As the review sections relevance and justification of the research topic and connection of the research with scientific programs, plans, and topics were announced already. Let me continue with review section, scientific novelty of the obtained results. For the first time, the author developed and tested a method of indirect assessment of selected sunflower samples for resistance to cadmium accumulation. The methodology is based on conducting a vegetation experiment with an analyzing background of cadmium concentration of 1 milligram per kilogram, cadmium source, cadmium monosulfate, plant vegetation up to the R5 phase. A working sunflower collection was formed with a range of cadmium content in the above ground part of plants, 0.5 to 2.6 milligram per kilogram. In seeds, 0.23 to 0.43 milligram per kilogram. Samples with a higher level of differentiation in terms of resistance to cadmium accumulation were selected. It was established that the predominant type of inheritance of the trait of resistance to cadmium accumulation is depression and partial negative dominance. The total value of these types was, when crossing genotypes with a low content of cadmium, 62%. When crossing genotypes with a high content of cadmium and between group crossing, 85.7 and 66.7% respectively. Based on the result of analysis of JB231AC and 62 of 3 samples, it was established that the level of resistance to cadmium accumulation is determined by the difference in the activity of MDA, COD, and POD, as well as the ability of genotypes to remove toxic substances, reactive oxygen species, from cells. One national macrophage resistance associated protein gene was identified that was upregulated and expressed at a higher level in genotypes with low levels of resistance to cadmium accumulation. The practical significance of the obtained results. Sunflower raw material with a controlled level of cadmium accumulation with an estimated productivity of 0.94, 1.48 ton of oil per hectare was created. The working collection of intervarietal hybrids of sunflower was transferred to the Institute of Agriculture of the Northern East of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine for the continuation of breeding work. The materials of the articles and annual reports were used in the training programs of disciplines in the specialty agronomy at Sumy National Agrarian University. Reliability and approbation of research results. Field research was carried out in accordance with current methods, taking into account the soil and weather characteristics of the research area. Laboratory experiments were conducted on certified laboratories using modern analytical equipment. Primary digital material was mathematically processed. The conclusion made in the work are based on the results of statistically reliable dependencies. Based on the results of the dissertation work, the author published 11 scientific works, including 3 publications in professional journals of Ukraine, 1 publication in a scientific publication included in the Scopus database, 7 abstracts of reports at scientific conferences. According to Clause 8 of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine Resolution number 44 of January 12, 2022, the estimated number of publications in which the result of dissertation work are highlighted is 4.5. The content of articles and theses and the chronology of their publication correspond to the declared stages of work on the dissertation. The structure and content of the work. The dissertation has a traditional structure for natural science research. There are 5 separate chapters that reveal the study level of problem, the research methodology, and the results of field and laboratory experiments. The conclusions drawn correspond to the tasks. The progress of research and intermediate results are highlighted in the relevant chapters. The material presented in the appendices illustrates the intermediate results of individual experiments. Chapter 3 is thoroughly presented with a high level of breeding content, which highlights the progress and results of screening sunflower breeding samples for resistance to cadmium accumulation. This section also presents the results of intervarietal crossings and gives a generalized characteristic of the resulting hybrids. Chapter 4, which is devoted to the study of physiological and transcriptomic mechanisms of accumulation and control of cadmium in certain parts of sunflower plants, is rich in information with a detailed scheme of conducting experiments. Research was conducted on selection samples 62 of 3 and GB231AC with high and low cadmium content, respectively. The presentation of the material of Chapter 5 is successful in the applied aspect of the work. On the chapter material on the results of testing, the created selection material for a complex of breeding valuable traits is summarized in tabular form. The conclusions of the chapter are the logical basis of the proposals made by the author. Taking into account the large volume and significant level of the differentiation of the conducted research, vegetation, field, and laboratory, the work contains separate debatable provisions as well as statements and conclusions that require clarification or additional justification in the process of protection. In the process of analysis with the content of the dissertation, some editorial flaws were also revealed. 1. Discussion clauses. The work is based on the use of selection samples on sunflower provided by the National Center for Agricultural Research and Development of Ukraine. Why was breeding material from the People's Republic of China not used in the work? The possibility of using a part of the created samples as a starting material for plant varieties for reclamation use are considered in the chapters of the work and conclusions. At the same time, there is no theoretical justification of the current state and prospects of such selection programs. 2. Provisions requiring additional comments and explanation. In the work, namely Chapter 2, Table 2.2.3, a scheme that provides a total of 200 directs and reverse crossings are shown. However, in the text, the characteristics of only 73 intervarietal hybrids are presented. What are the characteristics of other hybrids? In the methodology and research results, the author uses the indicator of the total amount of cadmium in the substrate and the aerable layer in the soil without highlighting its available water-soluble form. How is this approach justified? Despite the structure of the dissertation with the result of laboratory studies, the work does not contain indicators of the content of cadmium in the final products of sunflower processing, namely in sunflower oil and sunflower pulp. Have such studies been conducted, and if not, why? 3. Remarks on the design of the text. As a result, on converting the text into PDF format or other operation with the text, pages 2 of section -1, some tables and figures in other sections were shifted. Some parts of the text in figures of chapter 3 and 4, 3.5 to 3.8, 4.6 to 4.11 have a size of less than 10 points, which makes it difficult to perceive them. Appendix G to J tables do not have row numbers. General conclusions. The dissertation work of Yua Jin Fu, Selection on Sunflower for Resistance to Cadmium Accumulation, submitted for defense to the Specialized Academic Council for obtaining the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of knowledge 20, Agricultural Sciences and Food, in the specialty 201, Agronomy, in terms of its relevance, scientific and theoretical level, main results of validity, main provisions and results published in professional publication, and novelty of the setting and practical significance meets the requirements of the Order of Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, number 40, dated January 12, 2017, on approval of requirements for registration dissertation, and the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, dated January 12, 2022, number 44, on approval of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and cancellation of the decision of the one-time Specialized Academic Council of the Higher Educational Institution, Scientific Institution on awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with amendments made according to the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers number 341, dated 3 March 21, 2022. Based on the above, I believe that Yua Jin Fu deserves to be awarded a scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 201 Agronomy of the field of knowledge 20 Agrarian Sciences and Food. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. When you have possibility to give answer for these questions, maybe some comments for you, Katerina. Makляк.
Okay. I'm very grateful to my opponent for the deep and detailed analysis of my dissertation and comments and wishes which were made. I agree with most of the comments and will take them in account in future work. However, allow me to respond some of them. In particular, discussion clauses. The work is based on the use of selection samples of sunflower provided by the National Center for Agriculture Research and Development of Ukraine. What was breeding material from the People's Republic of China not used in the work. Thank you for your comment. We only choose Ukraine sunflowers instead of Chinese ones. First of all, the conditions were not aligned. After I came to Ukraine to study, we chose my PhD subject. It was too far to go to China to find sunflower varieties. Moreover, Ukraine is the largest importer of sunflower oil. There are very rich varieties of sunflower, and the experimental materials have been very comprehensive. If there is an opportunity in the future, we will consider adding Chinese sunflower varieties. Provisions requiring additional comments and explanations. Despite the saturation of the dissertation with the results of laboratory studies, the work does not contain indicators of the content of cadmium in the final products of sunflower processing, namely in sunflower oil and sunflower pulp. Have such studies been conducted? And if not, why? Thank you for your comments. As far as I know, I don't think we have carried out studies on sunflower oil and sunflower pulp yet. These studies need further planning. Thank you very much for reviewing. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Katerina Nikolaevna, are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and next opponent, please, Boris Fedorovich Varenik. Read you, give some comment about this dissertation.
Thank you. Katrina Makляк as opponent analyzed it in the dissertation in detail. My review in full format is posted on the university's website. Let me stop on the main provisions. 1. The first chapter is based mainly on the publication of European and Chinese research. The work domestic scientists remain unexplored. The main remark about chapter 3 is the lack of the unified scheme in which the number and reasons and elimination of selection sample in each individual experiment indicate. 3. Only sample with maximum and minimum levels of cadmium accumulation were studied physiological and genetical studies. Why were samples with an average in the collection level and magnification of the trail not studied? And the selection of the separate breeding group of sunflower for soil remediation chapter 5 is definitely interesting from theoretical point of view. How, in my opinion, this task is currently form the practical solution. General conclusions, the dissertation work selection on sunflower for resistance to cadmium accumulation meets the requirements and UNGFU the server to be awarded scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the special 201 agronomy. Thank you to attention.
Thank you very much, Boris Fedorich. FUNG, you have time for give answer for these questions, for this review, please.
Okay, I'm very grateful to my opponent for the deep and detailed analysis of my thesis and comments and wishes which were made. I agree with most of the comments and will take them into account in future work. However, allow me to answer some of them. In particular, remark 1. The first chapter is based mainly on the publications of European and Chinese researchers. The workers of domestic scientists remained underexposed. Thank you for your comment. Because when I wrote the review, I could only look up the references provided on Chinese or English websites. I don't understand the Ukraine, so I can't browse the websites in Ukraine. So I think that's the reason that domestic scientists remained underexplored. Remark 2. Only samples with maximum and minimum levels of cadmium accumulation were studied in histological and genetic studies, while for samples with an average level of manifestation of the trait not studied. Thank you for your comment. In histological and genetic studies, samples with maximum and minimum levels of cadmium accumulation were studied. First of all, materials with maximum and the minimum cadmium accumulation are very valuable in production applications. The materials with minimum cadmium accumulation are the breeding materials for producing low cadmium sunflower oil, which is our breeding aims. The maximum cadmium accumulation materials may be used for the remediation of cadmium contaminated land. If the sunflower varieties with low cadmium accumulation in green and high cadmium accumulation in straw are cultivated in sunflower, the material can be used to produce low cadmium sunflower oil and remediation of cadmium soil. In addition, I think it should be easier to find out the genes causing the cadmium accumulation differences by preparing the varieties with large differences in cadmium accumulation. Thank you very much for reviewing, and that's all.
Thank you very much. Boris Fedorich, are you satisfied with the answer?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So, according to the rule of the work of the Specialist Academic Council, we are starting to discussion FUNG dissertation. I would like to all members please take part in this discussion. So, Who will first? Maybe Andrei Budenko. It's time for the
Thank you. I think for Yanji,
Sorry. About Tretsenko. Next discussion. Yes. Okay. Yes, you. Тому що керівник після нас. Да. Все, тоді ви, будь ласка.
I think for G deserves to be awarded the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 201 norm.
Okay. Very short. Okay. Victor Chanичka.
Thank you. The work is relevant now, devoted to the study of sunflower selection for resistance to cadmium accumulation. I think Yuan Fu deserves to be awarded the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 201 agronomy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor Ivanovich. Yes, Katerina Maklyak, please take part in our discussion.
I think this dissertation is very interesting for sunflower breeders, as for me, and as in theoretical, as in practical level. And I think Fu Yuanji deserves to be awarded the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 201 agronomy.
Okay, thank you very much. But Fedorovich, can you give some information, discussion?
Yes, I think the topic of research is relevant. Fu Yuanji conducted research at high scientific and methodological level. The task of creating sunflower initial material resistant to cadmium accumulation has been solved. The dissertation meets of requirement. I think Yuanji desires to be awarded the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 201 agronomy. So I will vote in for this.
Thank you very much. Okay, also have some information of take part in this discussion. Yes, I remember when she worked in Sumy National University. She every day comes to learn Professor Tretsenko. She worked with Ukrainian PhD student, as we saw some picture from field. So also I was in China. I saw she in Henan Institute of Scientific and Technology. She all time worked in this laboratory. So, and I think she made really good Professor Tretsenko, because it's really very important for measure how intense the heavy metal in the. As for now, it's really important because, you know, after aggression, we have some pollution in agrarian field. So the cadmium is the same heavy metal which we can measure in this field, which we can measure in the plant. So it's really very interesting methods for future in our country now. So I think she made good together with computer. So I think Yuanji deserves to be a right to create a Doctor of Philosophy, specialty 201 agronomy. So I think you really like scientific, and I see everything good in this direction. So now I want to speak a scientific supervisor, Doctor of Agricultural Science, Professor Vladimir Tretsenko. Please, Vladimir Ivановich.
Hello, students. As a document, the text of the review can be reached on the university website. summarize the text, I want to note that with UNG's her dissertation, this was complete independently and rational. During experiment and design of the work, UNG showed herself a qualified specialist. You can perform independent scientific research or work as part of a scientific group. In general, I would like to note that university fully accept of the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 201 agronomy. I would like to personally thank my Chinese colleagues because of our Professor Chen Chi Li, who was the supervisor of the Chinese phase of NG dissertation. Good luck. Do you all.
Okay, thank you very much, Volodymyr Ivanovich. Does anybody else want to speak? Maybe anybody will take part in our discussion, or we can stop it. Okay, so we have finished discussion. In Ukrainian rules, we can now start to голосування, як на Україні, на англійській мові? Sorry? Voting. So, ми маємо зараз перейти до голосування. Згідно процедури, це має бути відбуватись державною мовою, тобто українською, нашою найкращою мовою. Щоб не викликати двояких міркувань, чому саме, хто як голосує, тому це офіційно ми зараз будемо презентувати, оголошувати на українській мові. Так, я маю проект щодо рішення спеціалізованої вченої ради, дозвольте його зачитати. Спеціалізована вчена рада Сумського національного аграрного університету, Міністерства освіти і науки, міста Суми прийняла рішення щодо присудження ступеня доктора філософії з галузі знань, аграрні науки та продовольство на підставі прилюдного захисту дисертації селекція соняшнику на стійкість до накопичення кадмію, selection of sunflower for resistance for cadmium accumulation за спеціальністю 201 агрономія УНГ-ФУ 1978 року народження, громадянки Китаю, яка закінчила у 2009 році майстратуру в Ходжанському університеті за спеціальністю генетика і зараз працює в фінансовій науці і технології. Навчання в аспірантурі 2018-2022 рік, Суми, Сумський національний аграрний університет. Дисертацію виконано згідно цій установі, науковий керівник, доктор, професор Троценко Володимир Іванович. Має 11 наукових праць, 4 статті, 3 фахових викладів України, 1 скопус, 7 тез. Отже, переходимо до процедури відкритого голосування. Прошу членів вченої ради голосувати і озвучити рішення щодо присудження функції ступеня доктора філософії за галузі знань 20, аграрні науки продовольства, за спеціальністю агрономія. Тобто ми піднімаємо руку і кажемо за чи проти. Доцент Андрій Олександрович Буденко. За. Окей. Доцент Оничко Віктор Іванович.
За.
Окей. Макляк Катерина Миколаївна.
За.
Добре, зафіксували. Вареник Борис Федорович.
За.
Все фіксували. І я також приєднуюсь до своїх колег, маю тільки за підтримку. Отже, в ставі голосування, відкрите голосування за проголосували 5, 0, утрималось 0. Слово надається, ми це зафіксували в нашому полі, потім будуть підписи, зафіксовані, печатки гербової буде передано до Міністерства освіти. Отже, слово надається аспіранці Фу Юанжі. Fu Yuanji, can you tell some word about maybe your friend Ukraine, about life, about your life, about what you want to do is diploma. If you have 1 month, you will have diploma. What is the important things in your scientific life? Or it's a change your life. It's your information, just your opinion.
Okay. Firstly, I would like to express sincere gratitude to my supervisor, Volodymyr Cholosenko professor, for his intellectual guidance, invaluable comments on my thesis. It is his valuable assistance that I can accomplish the thesis. I would also like to thank Professor Helena for her guidance for my PhD project and the thesis from beginning to end, as well as her deep care in life. Thanks to every teacher and friend I met in Ukraine who helped me. They are my valuable life experiments. I will always remember you. Thanks, Sumi. I thank you very much. I thank you, everyone. That's all.
Thank you very much. So, dear colleagues, шановні колеги, на цьому засідання спеціалізованої вченої ради вважається закритим. Ми допрацюємо документи, потім це буде передано. Я хотів би подякувати всім за активну участь, опонентам нашим, які в такий важкий час знайшли можливість. І, само собою, хотів подякувати нашим доцентам, які прийняли участь в активному обговоренні. А також, мабуть, усім ми хочемо подякувати Збройним силам України, СНАУ, що дали нам можливість провести даний міжнародний, так і сказати, захід на гідному рівні. Я думаю, слава Україні, ми переможемо. Дякую всім.